Hello, and welcome to Fulton County Public Library Book Stream for Tweens. Today's rebroadcast consists of a short reading of The Wishing Spell by Colfer. Thank you and enjoy. Hello, and welcome back to Book Stream for Tweens. My name is Janice, and I'm a librarian at the Central Library Headquarters of Fulton County Public Library System. This week, we're going to talk about the book, The Wishing Spell by Colfer, the first book in the series, The Land of Stories. But before we get started, I'd like to remind you to register for summer reading. This year's theme is Imagine Your Story. So log on to fultoncounty.beanstat.org and log your books in. Now, imagine interacting with fairy tale characters. Yes, in this book, the twins, Alex and Connor Bailey, through mysterious powers of a cherished book of stories, will leave their world and find themselves in a foreign land of wonder and magic, face to face with fairy tale characters they grew up reading about. Alex and Connor, wow, their world is about to change. Once upon a time, Miss Peters said to her sixth grade class, "These are the most magical words our world has ever known and the gateway into the greatest stories ever told. They're an immediate calling to anyone who hears them, a calling into a world where everyone is welcome and anything can happen. Mice can become men, maids can become princesses, and they can teach valuable lessons in the process." Alex Bailey eagerly sat straight up in her seat. She usually enjoyed her teacher's lessons, but this was something especially close to her heart. Fairy tales are much more than silly bedtime stories, the teacher continued. The solution to almost every problem imaginable can be found in the outcome of a fairy tale. Fairy tales are life lessons disguised with colorful characters and situations. The Boy Who Cried Wolf teaches us the value of a good reputation and the power of honesty. Cinderella shows us the rewards of having a good heart. The Ugly Duckling teaches us the meaning of inner beauty. Alex's eyes were wide, and she nodded in agreement. The way the other students stared at their teacher, as if the lesson being taught were in another language, was something Mrs. Peters had never grown accustomed to. So, Mrs. Peters would often direct entire lessons to the front row where Alex sat. Mrs. Peters was a tall, thin woman who always wore dresses that resembled old pattern sofas. Her hair was dark and curly and sat perfectly on the top of her head like a hat. And her students often thought that it was a hat. Through a pair of thick glasses, her eyes were permanently squinted from all the judgmental looks she had given her classes over the years. I wonder if the world would be a different place if everyone knew these tales in the way the brothers Grimm and Hans Christian Andersen intended them to be known. Mrs. Peters said, "I wonder if people would learn from the Little Mermaid's heartbreak when she dies at the end of her real story. I wonder if there would be so many kidnappings if children were shown the true dangers that Little Red Riding Hood faced. I wonder if delinquents would be so inclined to misbehave if they knew about the consequences Goldilocks caused herself with the 3 bears." did we think of the real Little Red Riding Hood? The teacher asked her class. A girl with frizzy hair and thick braces raised her hand. Mrs. Peters, the frizzy-haired girl asked, I'm confused. And why is that? Mrs. Peters said, as if asking, what on earth could you possibly be confused about, idiot? Because it says the big bad wolf is killed by the hunter, the frizzy-haired girl explained. I always thought the wolf was just upset because the other wolves in his pack made fun of his snout, and he and Little Red Riding Hood became friends in the end. Well, at least that's what happened in the cartoon I used to watch when I was little. Mrs. Peters rolled her eyes so far back into the back of her head she could have seen what was behind her. That, she said with a clenched jaw, is exactly why we're having these lessons. The frizzy-haired girl became wide-eyed and sad. How could something so dear to her have been so wrong? For homework, Mrs. Peters said, and the room unanimously slumped in their seats, you are to pick your favorite fairy tale and write a paper due tomorrow. On the real lesson, the tale is trying to teach us. Mrs. Peters went to her desk and the students began working on their assignment with the little class time remaining. Mr. Bailey, Miss Peters summoned Connor to her desk. I have a word with you. Connor was in deep trouble, and he knew it. He cautiously stood up and walked to Mrs. Peters' desk. The other students gave him sorrowful looks as he walked by, as if he were walking to his executioner. Alex had watched the entire conversation between her brother and their teacher. As much as her brother embarrassed her, she did feel for him as only a sister could. Alex flipped through her literature book, deciding on which story to write about. The pictures weren't as colorful and exciting as they had been in her grandmother's book, but seeing all the characters she had grown up reading about made her feel at home, a feeling that had recently become a rarity. If only fairy tales were real, she thought. Somebody could wave a wand and magically make things happen, make things how they used to be. Tomorrow, I am going to tell you about the author, Chris Colfer. For Friday's video, don't forget to submit your fan art for Fan Art Fridays. The details are on the description below the video, so check that out and reach us on our social media or email. Thank you so much, and I know you're going to enjoy this book. So I will see you tomorrow, and take care. Goodbye.